In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Excel and RStudio to create this easy to read correlation matrix to analyze your testing data. This is going to be really useful for analyzing any data that you may have collected after a testing session and starting to look at the relationships between different metrics you've collected. So let's get after it. Okay, so in order to get started with this project, what you're going to need to have done is installed RStudio onto your computer, as well as just have a working copy of Excel that we can create some data in. So to get this project started, what I've done here is just created a table here that has example testing data that we might have got after an athlete testing session. So you'll see down the left-hand side here, we have all of our athlete names and then all of the dates. And then along the top, we have the different tests that we might have done and then all of the scores for those tests. Now what I want to do is get this data from Excel into R. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to save this file as a CSV file. So what you'll do is you'll go to File, Save As, and then under the Save As comment or Save As box, you can go to More Options, and then it'll bring up your window and you can choose CSV and then save that file. I've already gone ahead and done that, and what it'll give us is a file with our data into it. Now we're going to move over to RStudio. So now we've moved over to RStudio and I have a blank canvas here. Now the first thing that I'm going to want to do is actually import that data that we saved as a CSV. So what I can do is on the right hand side here, there's the environment tab and there's an option to import a data set. If I click there, I can go to From Text and it's going to open up a window. I'm just going to navigate to the data, which I've called athlete data, and I will just double click that and it's going to open a box to import that data set. One thing that you might want to select is where it says headings. We're going to want to turn that on because that we have the headings associated with our table. So now when I hit import, it's going to bring all of that data into RStudio and you'll be able to see that it is all the same data that we were using before. Okay, so now we can write our code to start to manipulate some of this data. So the first thing to remember is that anything we put in a hashtag is going to be a comment and it won't be run as code. So I'm just going to name this project Strength Coach Tutorials number 100. It's a good practice to put comments throughout your code so that if someone else is working with it, they know what you are doing. Then the next thing that you would do at the beginning of an R script is install any of the libraries that you might be using. So in this case, we're going to be using a package called CorePlot. So the code for that looks like this: install.packages, and then open that up, and I'm going to put a quotation and I'm going to call it CorePlot, C-O-R-R-P-L-O-T. And packages are basically almost like apps for RStudio that allow you to do other functions. So they will bring more calculations and functions into your RStudio. Now I already have this installed, so I am just going to comment this out in my code so that it doesn't run when we actually run the code. But if you were doing this yourself and you didn't have this package installed yet, then you would want to call in this package. So then the next thing that we want to do is actually bring our data into this file. So one thing that I like to do is just give our data a name. So I'm going to name it data and then have an arrow pointing into it, and that allows me to put something into that name, a data frame. And we know that the file that we imported was called athlete data. So I'm just going to type that in, and reminder, it is case sensitive. And as I start to type that in, you'll see that RStudio actually pulls that up and I can click to finish that off. Now, when I hit run, you're going to notice that we get another data frame and it's the exact same as the one we imported. And what I'm going to be able to do now is just use this to manipulate my data. Now, the next thing we might want to do is clean this up. So we're going to be using a function called correlate, and the function that we're going to use is only going to want to use the numerical values of our data set. So what I'm going to have to do is actually remove the name and the date columns from our data set. Now, a way that we can do that is I can just put in the data frame with those columns removed. So what it could look like, I'm going to call it df clean because it's going to be the data frame that we've cleaned. And I want this one to now represent data and then a square bracket. I only want, if I look back to here, column 1, 2, 3 all the way over to 9. Okay, so what I can do here is go 3 double dots 9. And what this is telling R is that now we want data frame clean to be the data, but only columns 3 to 9. So when I hit run, you can see it'll have created a new data frame. And when I click on that one, it's going to open data frame clean and only have our bench, squat, deadlift, clean variables, etc. So that's just an easy way to start to remove some of the columns that we don't necessarily want. Now what we can do is, if we wanted to just explore those without the fancy visualization, R has a formula called core. And what this will do is actually do a correlation. So I can type in df clean because I want to run a correlation on this data frame. And when I hit run, you're going to see that it will actually create us a correlation matrix table down here at the bottom. Now remember that the data is just made up, so some of the things that we would expect to be related probably aren't in this data, but we can have a look through and see which variables are related. So that's an easy way to do that. But if we want to do it with a graph that we can bring into another presentation or bring it back onto our spreadsheet, we're going to use that core plot that we had installed at the beginning. And I'm going to call that library now. So I'm going to need to type in library, open that up, and then quotations core plot. There's 2 R's. And then when I run this, it's going to say that the library core plot was loaded. And I can use the core plot function now. So I'm going to type in core plot, C-O-R-R-P-L-O-T, open that up, and it's going to ask me for a few things. The first thing it's going to ask is what core I want to run. So I'm going to type in core, open that up, and go data frame clean. And then that will automatically close off, and I'm going to go comma. And then there's a lot of other things we can put into this, but the only thing I'm going to show you how to do today is just a method. So I'm going to type in method equals and then quotation circle. And what this is going to do is when it actually creates the plot, it's going to give me a circle representation of the correlations. So I'll hit run, and you can see it's created our correlation plot over here on the right hand side. And the circles that are bigger are more correlated, and the circles that are smaller are less correlated. We could run the same thing. I'll just type in the exact same code again, comma, method, and I'm going to type in equals number. And now when we run this, it's going to give us a numerical representation the same way that we had in our intro video. Now, if I want to export this, there's an export tab right here. I can hit export and copy to clipboard, and it'll open this up here, and I can copy that plot. And then if I go back to my Excel document, I can paste that plot right on there and bring it right into my Excel. Or I might want to paste this in PowerPoint or really anywhere that I might need to use this correlation plot. So that's a quick way that you can do a correlation plot in RStudio. And the beautiful thing about this is RStudio will handle way more data than Excel can and way faster. So it's just an easy way to start to look at some of your data and figure out which metrics are related and hopefully guide your training in the right direction. So I hope this trick helps you out. And if you want to see more videos about RStudio and little tricks for strength coaches, just leave a comment down below and I will do my best to create more of these videos. So thanks for watching.